Hi everyone, hope everything is well for you at the moment and always. Let's do the chanting. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami, Dudiyambi Buddham saranam gacchami, Dudiyambi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Dudiyambi Sangham saranam gacchami, Tatiyambi Buddham saranam gacchami, Tatiyambi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Tatiyambi Sangham saranam gacchami. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, through the positive potential I create by practicing the six paramitas. May I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, through the positive potential I create by practicing the six paramitas. May I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, through the positive potential I create by practicing the six paramitas. May I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May they be free from suffering and its causes. May they never be parted from the happiness beyond suffering. May they abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment to the near, and aversion from the far. I shall cause this. Great compassionate Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every types of offerings, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all of my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in all the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for all sentient beings. I dedicate the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. However innumerable all sentient beings are, I vow to save them all. However inexhaustible my delusions are, I vow to extinguish them all. However immeasurable the Dharma teachings are, I vow to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, I vow to follow it completely. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Tayata Gate Gate Parasamgate Bodhisoha. Tayata Gate Gate Parasamgate Bodhisoha. Tayata Gate Parasamgate Bodhisoha. So now let's do some meditation. So get yourself comfortable. Nice relaxed position. Not rigid, but also not lazy. If you are sitting upright, just like that, nice and balanced, middle path. Not with tense shoulders, rigid back, like that, but also not slouching. If you have to recline because of some aches and pains that you may have, then that's fine. Just keep your mind upright. So let's bring our mind inside our body. And from the bottom to the top, release whatever tension you may have. So release the tension from all around your feet. And your ankles. The lower leg. Around your knees. And upper legs. Around your midsection. In your upper body. around your shoulders, all the way down to the tips of your fingers. Your neck, and the back of your head, and sides of your head, around your ears and temples, from all around your face, your jaws, around your cheekbones. Make sure you're not clenching your jaw. Around your chin and mouth, nose, eye sockets, eyes. Make sure you're not frowning on your forehead. And finally, the crown of your head. And now once more, scan your body very quickly, briefly, to see if there's any leftover tension that you're able to release. And if there is, do so. Now bring your mind to your breathing. Initially, the tip of your nose, and follow the feeling of the breath as you breathe in your nose, all the way into your lungs and back out your nose again. I remind you again, 3 major points that you can focus on as well, the feeling of the breath as it passes these points. Make sure that your mind is on the breath, focused, and that is the tip of your nose, the bronchial area, your chest, and then your abdomen. As you breathe into your lungs, they expand. And then you breathe out, they compress. As a result of this, the stomach rises and falls. Breathing in and breathing out. If thoughts arise or any mental activity arises, don't cling to it. Don't grasp at it. Don't try to force it away either, or deny it. But simply let it go as you refocus on your breath. So replacing your mind on your breath is the antidote when you have thoughts and mental agitation and the like. And if your mind starts to become dull and sleepy, then wake it up a little bit by refocusing on your breath more brightly. So once again, replacing your mind on your breath is the antidote. Breathing in and breathing out. So let's do this in silence for a little bit. And now we can feel pleased with ourselves and fill ourselves with universal loving kindness. So fill your whole being with the white light or nectar. And of utmost importance is the feeling of universal loving kindness. So feel your friendship, your inner love. Not love as in the lust love, but loving kindness, loving friendship, respect and appreciation, and gratefulness or gratitude, harmlessness, non-violence, and so on. Really feel it. Should make you feel very light, very nice. Have no worries, no anxiety. Past is gone, the future's not here. So in this present moment, fill yourself with universal loving kindness. Fill yourself with so much loving kindness that it now overflows, radiates outwards. The visualization, the white light, radiates out from your heart center and enters the heart centers of the beings in front of you at the different stages of this meditation, filling them with the white light too. So initially, your loved ones, your family, your friends, fill them with the universal loving kindness. May they be happy, free from suffering, and to be peaceful. Now also include strangers, those people that you may know a little bit or not at all, filling them with the universal loving kindness too. May they also be happy, free from suffering, and be peaceful. Now also include those you may regard as enemies, filling them with the universal loving kindness and having the wish that they are happy, free from suffering, and are peaceful. So now we can go beyond human beings alone to include all sentient beings, initially around your immediate area, as we will slowly and gradually expand our radiation of this universal loving kindness further and further distance-wise. All the beings live in the waters, on the land, fly through the air, born from wombs, eggs, moisture, or transformation, or through transformation. Now extend this loving kindness out throughout your whole state or county. By the way, you can probably categorize all of the sentient beings, including the animals and so on, into the three groups as well. Those that you find friendly, or you have some sort of attachment towards or attraction to. Most of them would be you're indifferent towards, and even those ones you may fear or dislike for whatever reason. And when we get to radiating throughout all the countries throughout the world, then it's similar. You can apply these three types, starting with the easiest, working the way to the more difficult. So now radiate this loving kindness out further and further throughout your whole country now. And other countries throughout the world, those you have an affinity towards, those you're indifferent towards, and those that you may have some negative feelings towards. Have your loving kindness pervade throughout all of the countries in this world and throughout all of the oceans and other waterways. all the way down to the core of the earth and to the outermost atmosphere. And now beyond this planet, throughout the whole solar system. Throughout the whole galaxy and universe and beyond, until your loving kindness pervades throughout infinite space. This immeasurable loving kindness now that you generated in your own heart. We are not separate from infinite space, from every single thing, interdependent, interrelated. So let's do the dedication prayer now too. Due to this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of the Buddha, so that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhicitta, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. And may the precious view of Shunyata, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Okay, so as mentioned, we're going to have some commentary on my article, Nip Negativity in the Bud, which actually, from my memory, is 2 articles put together. I was asked to provide some Buddhist teachings, articles and so on, even some videos for a Buddhist website in the USA a few years ago. So I did that. And I put this one together, a short article, just 3 paragraphs long, with one that is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 paragraphs long. Okay, so the initial article you're probably very aware of, and then the other one you're probably aware of too. Okay, so, but maybe you haven't heard it, or maybe you haven't read it much, if at all, in the longer version here. So nip negativity in the bud. Using metaphor, bud of a flower, flower gets a bud before it blooms. So this means, like, let's say it's anger, for instance. Before the anger becomes fully blown, nip it in the bud. As soon as you feel the frustration, sort of the anger coming, I know it's difficult to do that, but it's easier to do that, to train ourselves to do that, than it is to rein in the anger once it's fully blown at that moment. Okay, anger is our foe, remember, to use another teaching of mine. It only causes torment and pain, so let it go, just like you would the morning rain when the sun comes out. It's actually from a song that I wrote, initially called All Fall Down, but also has a subtitle that says, Let the Good Prevail. So maybe I'll recite that to you one day, but I actually forgot the words, I think. I know that it says that. I know it says that. It says, patience is our friend. So why not cover ourselves in it? Or something like that, anyway. And then it goes on to anger. Okay, so because patience is the antidote for anger, isn't it? You could also add loving kindness and so forth to that. But patience, we have to be patient, then we won't get angry. The more patient we are, the less chance it is we're going to impulsively react to anything. Okay, so patience is very important, as I've said before, in so many commentaries, so many shastras, and so many sutras that the Buddha spoke and his disciples. Patience is mentioned so many times, and long verse, when it's written in verse form, such as in the Bodhicharyavatara, or Way of the Bodhisattva by Master Shantideva, it's very long, so I think for good reason, it's very important. Okay, so nip negativity in the bud. So I'll read the article to you and then we can have a look at dissecting it. Excuse me. The weather's very humid here today. And even probably the last month or more, I've actually been getting quite a lot of allergies from the lack of rain, actually, because the air is so dry, lots of pollen flying around. And I've just some days worse than others. last Saturday and Saturday before, I think I sneezed in class. So yeah, I think maybe once I've done that before on Zoom. So I apologize for that. But yeah, clear my throat and stuff like that. I apologize. And also hard to breathe in the nose. Have to breathe in the mouth. Suffering of suffering, dukkha dukkha. Suffering of impermanence, anicca dukkha. Suffering of no self, anatta dukkha. Experiencing them all in my sinuses, in my chest and throat. With a smile. So anyway, here it is. Nip negativity in the bud. Anger only ever causes suffering. We should eradicate it whenever it arises, just as we don't hang on to rain when the sun comes out. All things pass. Replace anger with acceptance, patience, appreciation, and loving kindness. We should do our very best to protect our mind by enthusiastically practicing the four great efforts, as taught by the Buddha, to eradicate any unwholesome thoughts that have already arisen, to stop any new unwholesome thoughts from arising, to give rise to wholesome thoughts, and to maintain wholesome thoughts that have already arisen. The Buddha said, with sustained effort and sincerity, discipline and self-control, the wise become like islands which no flood can overwhelm. When mental sensations and thoughts arise, don't cling to them or follow them or turn them into something bigger than they are, for they are simply conditioned habitual tendencies. Be proactive and nip them in the bud by just letting them go naturally, rather than being reactive, reacting to them and then reacting to the reaction and so on and so forth. For instance, if we let the weeds in the garden grow unrestrained and uncontrolled, the size and amount of weeds continually increase and become overwhelming. Likewise, if our thoughts and feelings are left to grow unrestrained and uncontrolled, they will intensify and eventually become overwhelming. We experience the world through our senses, which gives rise to mental sensations or feelings, which are either pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. We then recognize or perceive these sensations, and normally then impulsively react, which in turn leaves a karmic imprint on our consciousness. We should create what I like to call a buffer zone. You could say that that's the subtitle of this article, the buffer zone. I'm sure that all of you remember that teaching. I thought it was clever. I don't want to pat myself too much on the back here, but I think clever coming up with something catchy like that. And so I don't know whether I made it up. I don't know whether I read it or heard it somewhere. It just all of a sudden came in my psyche and then out my mouth. So we should create what I like to call a buffer zone between the perception of the sensation and the impulsive reaction. In other words, allow ourselves the opportunity to not impulsively react. In this way, we can protect ourselves from creating the negative karma. To give a brief example, if we bump our head on something hard, generally the sensation we experience would be unpleasant. We then perceive this unpleasant sensation and impulsively react with frustration or even fully blown anger, which in turn leaves a negative karmic imprint on our consciousness. However, if we create a buffer zone between our perception of the unpleasant feeling and our impulsive reaction, we will avoid creating negative karma. Enjoy your buffer zone. Nip negativity in the bud before it becomes overwhelming. Excuse me. I also presented this as a paper for a Buddhist conference in Japan, the Peace Summit, Buddhist Peace Summit. In the start of August, I actually recorded the teaching and gave this article to them in June. And so it was sitting around, as I mentioned to you, if you remember, and I thought I might as well give the teaching from this while it's sitting there. It's convenient for us, and I think a fun teaching to do with a very serious subject, so looking after our mind, basically. And so, yeah, I sort of presented this, and because I added the extra teaching to it earlier, I thought it was long enough, for a paper, for a conference. I was invited to go, but I'm not traveling in person to doing in-person teachings and so on. And so I have been invited again to go to Japan in April, which I said that I can't go to in person, but I've last week recorded a teaching. They're talking about, it's called Pillars of Buddhism. I feel very humbled and overjoyed in a sense, that they would like me and some other people to be presented with this award, which is very nice. And so I guess they're going to give, to people that are very active in teaching the Dharma and so forth, and maybe other ways of sharing the Dharma. And so I think they were, what was it? It was USA, India, Japan, and Australia. So Buddhism in these countries. And so I obviously presented an article called The Growth of Buddhism in Australia, which I'll share that with you at some stage too. Okay, so the article here, get back to this. We have about another 10 minutes, which is quite good. So anger only ever causes suffering. We should eradicate it whenever it arises, just as we don't hang on to the rain when the sun comes out. All things pass. Replace anger with acceptance, patience, appreciation, and loving kindness. I recited a verse from that song I mentioned to you before. Anger is our foe, it only causes torment and pain. Learn to let it go just as you would the morning rain. So that's the actual verse. And then this is a little bit of an explanation, like a second paragraph to that. But this explanation is not actually in the song. So think about that. Anger, even some people actually, I digress slightly, but some people I think getting angry and then feeling the release after the anger, this is like happiness. They feel relieved. It's like a kettle, I've mentioned to you this before, this example. And it's like a kettle. If the kettle is boiling, if the water in the kettle is boiling and it's closed, it's not sort of any hole to let the steam out, then it eventually will blow up. So this is like human beings, hanging on to things, hanging on to this anger and all of the worries and stresses and so forth. Eventually, a blowout of anger, sort of like an explosion, like a volcano, you could say. But actually, it's really important to let it go, to know what it is. Don't let it build up like that. Like I'll go back to what I just said. There's a lot of people I've noticed in my life that actually feel relief. But that's actually all that's doing is it's increasing, reinforcing the habit of it happening again. So your anger will continue to increase. The impulsive reactions will continue to reinforce themselves. So it's not a good thing, even if it feels sometimes like a relief. Okay, so if ever you find yourself doing that, then catch yourself and say, no, I'm not going to reinforce. At very least, I'm not going to go backwards, you could say, in the Dharma path at this time. So always, this is like I always say, it should be something you do often, if not always, actually. And that is check your intentions. Just like these 4 great efforts we're about to talk about it as well. Do this constantly. So negative mind states come, then let them go at that time. Don't sort of give in to them, especially don't let them overwhelm you. They are, like I say again, our negative emotions especially are very shy. As soon as you pay pure awareness to them, in the sense, I go into the words I'm using here, acceptance, patience, appreciation, love and kindness. As soon as you pay this with pure awareness, then they melt away. They don't hang around because they're not real. They're just habits, habitual tendencies, like I say. So anger only ever causes suffering. What else can it cause? Can't cause happiness. Impossible. We should eradicate it whenever it arises, just as we don't hang on to the rain when the sun comes out. That example really is quite abstract, but, for instance, let's say it's pouring rain in the morning, and and then the sun comes out. So you can't go for a walk first thing because you get drenched, but then you can go for a walk. When you're going for a walk, are you thinking about the rain that you had earlier that stopped you from going for a walk? Most likely not. Okay, so you're now experiencing the sunshine, experiencing a nice, pleasant walk. All things pass. And so this is obviously words of the Buddha, words of many spiritual masters, and words of George Harrison from the Beatles. And I think this too will pass, I think was one of the names of his albums. And so, of course, he practiced Hare Krishna, so one of the Hindu traditions. Replace anger with acceptance. We need to accept ourselves. We need to accept our good qualities. We need to accept our faults, okay? We need to accept ourselves. And then be courageous and look at our good qualities so that we know what to increase. Look at our faults so we know what to decrease and not react on. Impulsively react especially. Patience I've mentioned already. Appreciation, really appreciate yourself. Appreciate these Dharma teachings. Appreciate the Buddha giving the teachings. Appreciate the teachers teaching the teachings. Appreciate yourself for making the effort to listen and then making the effort to put them into practice. Okay, appreciate everything. Appreciate actually even negative circumstances in your life. Appreciate them. They're a great opportunity to practice the Dharma. Okay. So if there's anger out there, let's say somebody is insulting you or treating you badly, this is a great opportunity for you to develop more patience. So sort of appreciate that, appreciate yourself for being able to recognize that and then to practice and increase this patience and other good qualities. We should do our very best to protect our mind by enthusiastically practicing the 4 great efforts. We've gone through this many times. Right back when we first started doing the Zoom classes as well, when the commentary was on the Eightfold Path. And this is, of course, the great effort. The 4 great efforts specifically, as taught by the Buddha, to eradicate any unwholesome thoughts that have already arisen. So if you have these thoughts in your mind that are unwholesome, now it's time to let them go, eradicate them. Nip them in the bud. Don't let them grow, you know. And also to stop any new unwholesome thoughts from arising. So really checking your intention, checking your thoughts, checking, you know, your mind to see, or to make sure, I should say, that no new unwholesome thoughts come into your mind. And then to give rise to wholesome thoughts, because wholesome thoughts open the mind. Wholesome thoughts create happiness and also develop merit, develop the virtues that we need on the Dharma path, that we need to create these good conditions so that we can develop more compassion and so on, as well as realize the supreme wisdom, or develop the conditions that we need on the Dharma path. Also to maintain thoughts or wholesome thoughts that have already arisen. This is kind of like I've given you this example, but not for quite some time now. And that is the fortress. Let's say your mind, you are the king of the fortress or the emperor of the fortress or empress or queen, right? And so you're in this fortress. You have a beautiful community in the fortress. Good community with all the good qualities and so forth. But in the community, there may be some people that are unwholesome with their thoughts and actions and so on as well. If there are people in your community or within your fortress that are behaving in an unwholesome way and having unwholesome thoughts, kick them out. This is just like getting rid of unwholesome thoughts. Don't let them back in. If there are people outside your fortress wanting to come inside, don't let them in. Or these people are unwholesome. Don't let them in. Lock the gates. Don't give them a key. Then also, if there are people within your fortress and your community that are wholesome, having wholesome thoughts, very helpful, harmless, then keep them inside the fortress. And if there are people on the outside of your fortress that want to come in, that are virtuous, that are wholesome. Let them in. So it's a good example, I think. I did read that somewhere. I didn't make it up. I don't know whether it's actually in sutras or whether it was commentary from other teachers in the past. So I think we're just about to finish. My clock says 5:39. So 5:40 is ish the time we finish. So I rejoice in your goodness. We'll continue to do this next couple of weeks. Have a lovely day ahead or evening ahead if you're in Australia. And look after your mind, look after your body. Study, practice, and share the Dharma to the best of your ability. I rejoice in your meritorious goodness. And so I will read this and see if I can finish it. The Buddha said, with sustained effort and sincerity, discipline and self-control, the wise become like islands which no flood can overwhelm. Teachings like this one and similar ones throughout the sutras, you could say, or specific ones, of course. But also this is in the Dhammapada. 626, I think, teachings in the Dhammapada. I can't remember how many categories it's under. But anyway, so this one is in there. I don't know if you've got a Dhammapada. Dhammapada means literally Dharma sayings, but actually really means sayings of the Buddha. So these are teachings of the Buddha in verse form, you could say, and then they're put together as a compilation. So if